Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
The Porcupine with Adam Nutter.
Always forget how long my own intro is. Hey, everybody, I'm Adam Nutter. What's up? Welcome to the Porcupine, another edition of this fucking shit show I call a podcast. Thanks for tuning in, as always, and supporting me. Can't believe you guys do. It's crazy. It's crazy that I have any fan base. It's fucking bananas, but I love you guys for it. You guys are the fucking best. Thank you for joining me. Again, a little fucking cleanup for us first at home here. Just follow me at Adam Nutter on all the stuff. As always, please. Thank you very much. And of course, please buy merch. Yeah, that's a fucking sweet porcupine shirts. You get the white series, black series. Sounds racist, but it isn't, I promise. And then you have your very own Disobey Your Local Nutter shirt from Top Lobster himself. Artwork from him. Exclusive only to this fucking website, droptent.com/store for all the merch. And then as far as shows coming up, I have a bunch of shows coming up. So the biggest one is this Friday, because we're live right now. This Friday, Pennsylvania State Convention for the Libertarian Party. It's going to be a fucking shit show as is. But if you guys want to avoid that shit show and just come for laughs, 6:30, I'll be at the, main Genetti Hotel with Blaise Gagakis and Neil Wood. They're opening up. And $20 at the door. You can just get your tickets there. And then an hour after that, I'll be opening up for Dave Smith and Tom Woods, their thing, like right across the street at, I think, the Community Arts Center. I think it's attached to the Genetti Hotel. I'm not sure. That's it. 8, I want to say, but tickets you get for that, lppa.org/convention. I never put them on my website because I'm lazy, but you go to lppa.org/convention for those tickets. And then the very next week after that, March 12th, back in Chalfont, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philly. 2 shows, 7 to 9:30. Robbie the Fire Bernstein's headlining those shows. Come on out. It'll be right after the week after the fucking thing. And then March 22nd, I'll be at the Stand in New York. So coming out to that 7 o'clock show, I think. Tickets available at the Stand website for sure. Anyway. Oh, real quick to start this answer. Joe, why I'm so zoomed in today is because I got a new camera. Don't know how to fucking pull it back. Don't know how to change the lens. It is what it is. All right, Joe? Don't fucking shame me for it. Come over my house and fix it. Chair of my party. Piece of shit. All right, guys, my guest today. We've been talking a lot of Ukraine, Russia stuff, and just the wars in general and the bombing campaign. So you guys know him, daily contributor to Libertarian Institute. My man, Patrick MacFarlane. What's up, brother bear? How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, thanks for having on. Yeah, so crazy world right now. Russia, Ukraine, and then also like the other day I saw there was like 5 other bombings from like Israel, and like we bombed Somalia like all in one day. So nuts. I know a little bit about it, but you know more than I do. And so I guess let's just start for all the regular people out there who think Russia just did this. They didn't. So where did like this all start from? Like, where did the Putin things come from?
Well, I was going to say, it depends on how far you want to go back.
Oh, sure. True.
I just released an episode today talking about what's going on kind of in the backdrop of this whole thing is in the West, we're a lot more secular. We're not very religious anymore. And it's a whole different world over there. Once the Soviet Union fell, there was a big revival in the Eastern Orthodox Church. And so if you really want to go down to the roots of the schism between Ukraine and Russia, it goes all the way back almost 1,000 years to 980 AD. There was Prince Vlad, and he was a pagan, but then he consolidated his empire, and his empire was based in Kiev. And so he consolidated his empire, all the Rus people in that area, and made maybe what you could call the original Russian Empire. And about 200 years after that, in the 1200s, there's a lot of warring factions among the Rus people, and there's also the external threat from the Mongol invaders. And so all the people in the original empire that he converted to Orthodox Christianity, they migrated to Moscow. And so ever since you have that migration is the beginning of this kind of rivalry between Ukraine and Russia. And in the backdrop, we have a bunch of stuff, a bunch of things happen with the church. I'm fast forwarding 1,000 years here. But in 2018, you never heard of this. Nobody heard of this. There was a huge schism between the Russian Orthodox Church and the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. And the Ukrainian Orthodox broke away from the Russian Orthodox Church, and it was a huge deal, like the biggest deal in the Orthodox Church in centuries.
Why did they schism? Was there just a cultural, like a country reason, like a separation of line, or like a religious cultural thing?
Well, I think there were a lot of reasons that some of the church leaders from Ukraine were becoming more westernized, and actually the head of the Eastern Orthodox Church, Bartholomew I, he's based in Constantinople, and that's kind of the head of it. But it was this growing kind of friction between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine's been independent for almost 30 years now, and so you just have kind of this animosity and rivalry building, where Ukrainians like to remind Russians that, hey, remember, Prince Vlad was from Kiev, and Kiev is viewed as kind of like the Jerusalem of the Russian Orthodox Church. And so it's a really important thing. And Putin himself, he commissioned the construction of a statue of Saint Vlad in front of the Kremlin. And so there's a lot of people making a big hullabaloo about, oh, Putin wants to be the original Russian Empire or emperor, and he wants to relive the glory days. And I think there's more truth to constituting the ancient Russian Empire than there is to reconstituting the USSR. So there was the big long thing that I've focused on in the last couple days. But it's crazy, man. I mean, the speed of information coming in,
Right.
the fake information is just overwhelming, man.
A lot of propaganda. I mean, how much it's like it's wild seeing like real time propaganda happen, and then you think of like World War II when there wasn't Twitter or like any social media, and like propaganda took like months to get to you, and you're like, oh shit, they're fucking bombing things in like Germany or whatever, whatever the propaganda was back then. Now it's like you look at a picture, you're like, nah, but that's bullshit. Yeah. Right away. Dude, I don't know. I tweeted this out, but there was a picture of like two Ukrainian guys holding wooden guns.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I was like, what are we doing? Like, is this we trying? Like, it's just like I guess my question to you is like, who benefits from propagandizing more in this scenario? Russia or Ukraine, do you think?
Man, that's really tough, because I think both sides do. And right now we're really awash with, because I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of like speculating here, but I would say that the West, there's more Western Twitter users, I would think, than there would be Russian Twitter users, or people who would consider themselves, Twitter and social media in general. It's not just Twitter, but at least where I'm sitting from, I've seen a lot more Ukrainian propaganda, and I think that they stand to benefit more, because who all the other NATO nations and nations in the West are full of populations of people whose opinion needs to be won over. And I would think that you have more users in the West. Again, that's a guess, but you need to convince all those users to pile onto the conflict and to get involved in the conflict in some way. And Russia, I mean, you can talk all day about the relationship between Russia and China. And I mean, it would seem like US policy really has driven them together. And they're not necessarily bedfellows historically. There was the Sino-Russian split, the Sino-Soviet split that occurred, I believe, in the 60s or 70s. So they're not natural friends per se, but our policy has really driven them together.
Okay, so go back to the 2014 coup that we threw, via not us physically. Obviously, we know we don't do that anymore. We don't physically overthrow since Iraq, Afghanistan. But Obama, at the president at the time, he wanted well, not just him, and I'm sure the EU and all these other fucking Western European countries wanted a puppet regime to bend to our will. So they overthrew the Russian guy who's in there, right?
Yeah.
With our guy, and then he installed in some regions actual neo-Nazis, right?
Yeah, and if you want to go and get a better picture, because I've seen a lot of pushback on this whole neo-Nazi narrative. It's legit. I mean, it's
right.
Not,
I mean, I've seen the pictures. I've seen
right.
The whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just the pictures. I mean, it goes back way back to World War II, and if you want to go to, there's a piece by Justin Raimondo on antiwar.com that talks about it, called "The Monster Reawakens: The Rise of Ukrainian Fascism." And the subtitle is "A Precedent the West Will Live to Regret." Just kind of talking about Svoboda and the right sector and the influence of Ukrainian Nazis in the Maidan coup. And I mean, it's really kind of blatant. I mean, there's names and links all over the place. If you're familiar with Justin's writing, that shouldn't be too surprising. But I would, I think it's, is it Ukraine on Fire with Oliver Stone? I think Oliver Stone is a great documentary. It's on YouTube, so you can watch it right away. But that goes through everything that happened, and there's actual like interviews with Putin. I think Putin's in there, and kind of the people who were there while it happened. And so I guess the part that I can talk about more so, because I don't know the cold facts, but like the back of my hand, but I do know what I looked into is that Vice was on the ground in 2014, and I'm known for being maybe like in the libertarian spheres, someone who's been very critical of Tim Pool. I don't know if you've heard this or
Yeah, I heard.
so. Tim Pool was on the ground in 2014 during the Maidan coup, and it's just very interesting because if you watch the coverage from Vice Media at the time, Oliver Stone, yeah, that's his name. But if you watch the coverage from Vice Media on the ground at the time, it's very, very pro-revolution. And in fact, like when all those protesters were being shot, Vice had that all over the place. And so it kind of makes you wonder, you know, Vice has also favorably covered the white helmets in Syria and all of those people who kind of turned out being Free Syrian Army and head choppers. So it just, again, speculating here, but it's an interesting chapter too, looking at how the media has covered this in the past and people that you would think would be members of the independent media and looking at the way that they've covered this whole Ukraine situation. So yeah, there is a connection. Like, I'm not going to jump to conclusions and say that Tim Pool was working for the U.S. State Department or something like that. But when you're thinking about his coverage of the issue, just remember that he was on the ground in 2014 covering the Maidan coup with the protesters. Now, Vice Media also had very, very favorable coverage of that too. So I guess make of that what you will.
Interesting.
So,
I mean, you're linking. I mean, you're not saying anything crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, you link some stuff with Tim. You know what I mean?
I mean, I would certainly. I mean, if I had a chance, there's a lot of questions I would ask him.
Yeah,
that would certainly be something I would explore. You know,
where do you think Putin ends in Ukraine? Do you think he stops at the far western border of Ukraine and it's like, all right, that's my fucking dick. Like, you know, like now you guys get it. Like, don't fuck around. Or like, you know, I was talking to somebody and this person I was talking to isn't like as involved or you and I even or any of this stuff, but he was like, I think he's gonna keep going to Poland. Like, I think that's crazy. I was like, I don't know if he's gonna keep just marching like Hitler did. Like, he's like, I'm gonna go for it all. Like, cause he knows there's the consequences too. Like, I would imagine that he knows his limits. I think. Like, I don't think Putin's a crazy person. Like I mean, even Kim Jong-un, right, was like, I'm not going to launch a nuke into Japan, like, because he knows what would happen. So like Putin's the same thing. Where it's like nuclear war. I'm like, really though? Like, is he that crazy? Like, we wouldn't be like, well, fuck it, we're launching ours too now, and it's going to be one of those scenarios, right? So like, I think he knows where he's going to fucking end it, and just and this is his message. And like, if you guys fuck with me again, then I will push it again. Like, is that what you're thinking, or are you thinking it's like he's going to keep going?
I have no idea, man.
Yeah, like, I know I
mean, before this happened, I was like a lot of people in the anti-war community. I was skeptical of the fact that Putin would invade Ukraine, and I even pushed back on the invasion narrative itself. I guess you could fairly classify it as an invasion. Sorry, this is an aside, but one of my big kind of sticking points was that the media was calling this like an all-out offensive, like Operation Barbarossa or something like that from World War II. And I mean, it is a limited military action. That doesn't excuse what he's doing. I think it's horrible. And I've been really very upset about this since it took place. But I didn't think that he would do what he's doing. I thought that if there was a war in Ukraine, which I didn't write off, I thought that it would be a response to Ukraine invading the Donbass again and doing that. And then Russians would roll through. Maybe they would push back a little bit into Ukrainian territory. But I didn't think that this would happen, frankly. And I was pushing back on it, saying that Ukraine didn't even think this would happen. So I'm not alone in this respect, doubting the US State Department, who we all know are truth tellers.
Yeah.
I think, and Kyle Ancelone has kind of postulated this on his podcast. Kyle's the real expert here, but he's talking about how there's a, if we're familiar with Zbigniew Brzezinski, and in the 1980s, he wrote in a memo talking about Afghanistan, saying that, well, we didn't make the Russians invade Afghanistan, but we knowingly increased the likelihood that they would. And we have a group chat where we kind of discuss these things, and Kyle's in it too. But he was talking about, or somebody was talking about, how there's Brzezinski accolades in the U.S. State Department right now, and I can't help but wonder if the end goal, the objective of the U.S. State Department, was to get Putin to invade Ukraine so that they could start an insurgency and give Putin another Afghanistan. And I mean the evidence of this is all over the place. Maybe not intent, but they've been talking for a long time about training and arming a Ukrainian insurgency. And but when it comes to what Putin's motivations are, I really don't know. And I really hate this narrative that Putin is an irrational actor, right? Because
that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. And yeah, you're exactly right to say
right.
that, because the whole West is saying, oh, well, Hitler is Putin, forget all those things about the Nazi comparisons to the COVID regime. Hitler is automatically
right.
Putin.
Right.
And well, you don't negotiate with Putin, right, Adam? I mean, what do you do with, or excuse me, you don't negotiate with Hitler. What do you do with Hitler?
You gotta kill Hitler,
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Putin has been pretty clear about his motivations through this whole thing. Now, is Putin some kind of, Deus ex machina who's going to come down and save us from the Western globalist New World Order? No, I mean, Putin is a globalist himself. I mean, so it's just kind of a different flavor. James Corbett just put out a really great piece talking about this, how Putin, he's not going to come in and save us from Western identity politics. He's not going to come in and save us from critical race theory and the degeneracy of the West. He has his own motivations, but he's also part of that same globalist system, just a different part of it. So there could be some truth to his aspirations to return Russia to glory. I would think maybe the old empire. Do I think that? I mean, I don't think that he's going to start a war with NATO countries or anything like that, or threaten Finland and Sweden. He has done that. But who the hell knows, man? I didn't think this was on the table. So
I don't know if you saw, but Swiss bank accounts are now freezing Russian assets, which is like, it's like, you guys, this is what, again, I hate the fucking media because they're liars, and I hate the fucking dumb lefties because they're fucking liars too. And if like this conversation right now, they'd be like, you guys are pro Putin. It's like, right. No, we're just saying, like, he's a piece of shit. But this isn't just an out of nowhere thing. And there's a recourse here that we are heavily involved in as a country that you fucks don't want to openly admit to. Like, like, we fuck this up. We are always fucking things up. Right. It's like, it goes right from like that meme, right? It goes right from Biden, Kamala Harris to fucking COVID to Ukraine. It's like with all the NPCs in their brain, it's like just keep pushing the fucking narrative of the same exact. It's like, what? No one finds it weird that, like, we can't question the fucking war narrative.
Well, and a lot of libertarians too are doing this right now, and they're picking sides right now. Or I mean, you see libertarians, fuck it, I'm not gonna spare names, but Glenn Jacobs, I just saw, the mayor of Tennessee.
Oh, he's retarded.
I like
I like him too.
But yeah, I mean, he was retweeting the thing that Zelensky said about send me a ride, send me ammo, and saying, oh, how stunning and brave this guy, like, he's a real leader sticking in. I mean, it's an op, man. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
That would be a super cool thing to say if that was real. If he was really on the front lines being like, I need fucking ammo, not a ride, as he's taking rounds,
Yeah.
dude, I'll blow that guy. But he's not. It's a fucking, he's behind a desk with his fucking feet up, just like tweeting like, oh, I need ammo. And it's like, shut the fuck up.
Well, and the other, I mean, to pick sides right now, to try and pick sides right now in this whole thing is, I mean, we need to be on the side of de-escalation. Like, we are anti-war activists first,
Right,
and foremost, and it's not about picking sides. It's about criticizing who fucks up when. And right now we are at a very serious risk of like nuclear war, or at least a horrible worldwide war that is
right,
imminently avoidable.
right.
So I mean, there's talks right now about establishing a no-fly zone in Ukraine,
Dumb.
and then the whole SWIFT thing too. We were talking about that, but I understand that it's a little more complicated than just saying, oh, we're going to ban Russia from SWIFT, because SWIFT actually isn't a payment system. As I understand, SWIFT is actually a communication system that facilitates payments.
Okay.
And it's not actually controlled by nation states. It's controlled by member banks. So I don't know if it's as easy as saying, oh, there we go, Russia's out of SWIFT.
I mean, let's be honest, most of it's probably virtue signaling anyway. Like we did here, like all the fucking governors, like, we're gonna pull Russian products, which of course, and you know, I'm just parroting what you know already, but just for the people out there who might not know, that's just two things, right? One is it hurts our business owners who already paid for that booze that they have to just get rid of now. So they're, who knows, thousands, possibly millions, depending on how big of a distributor you are, in debt. And then all it does is also hurt the regular Russian business owners who have nothing to do with this war, who are like, I don't want this war either. I'm just making a product. Like, now you're gonna punish me for fucking my asshole. It's like punishing us for Biden or Trump or whatever the fuck they do. Right. It's bullshit. And you know, it's like it does nothing. It does nothing but hurt again, regular people. Putin's like, I don't give a fuck.
Right. Yeah. And I do believe that there have been declarations of banning Russia from SWIFT in a limited scope. I'd have to check antiwar.com just to see. By the way, I mean, all of you guys should be reading antiwar.com every single day going. Yeah. So the headline from Kyle, my buddy Kyle wrote this. U.S. allies ban Russian banks from SWIFT. Crypto may be next target. So the U.S. has joined Canada, the EU, and the U.K. in barring some Russians from the International Monetary Transfer System, SWIFT. Kyle says it's the most serious round of sanctions yet from Western nation over Ukraine's actions in Ukraine. So he posted that yesterday. So that's when that happened. But y'all should go check out that coverage there at antiwar.com.
I also find it very hypocritical that all these, like we were saying before, like you were saying before, Patrick, about like all these countries are like, he's literally Hitler. He's literally Hitler. Okay, well, Hitler was a psychopath who literally tried to take over the world, pretty much. You know, I mean, he was, or at least Europe, at least Europe, right, yeah. At least a large part of Europe, you know, and part of Africa and Asia and stuff like that. And you're telling me that you're gonna poke that bear again?
Right.
Like, you're gonna be like, let's freeze his shit as a neutral country where we've always been neutral. Let's now all of a sudden, let's stay neutral during World War II and a Holocaust, but let's not be neutral for this weird conflict that isn't so fucking cut and dry.
It's really strange, man.
It doesn't make fucking sense, dude. That's what I'm saying. It just, I don't know what the rub is. I don't know what the full psyop is yet, but it's there. I can't get to, like, the COVID thing is way more obvious. It's like, oh, control, control, planning of power, seeding of money. Totally. That's fucking propaganda, conspiracy 101, right? You know, like, but this, I'm like, okay, well, I don't think we want Russia to invade Ukraine as a psyop. Like, so what's the fucking get? Like, what is it, you know?
I mean, only speculating. I don't know. Like, I don't
know either. That's what I'm saying. It's a speculation.
I just did this episode on Operation Bluebeam, and
I
got some shit for it because like, I'm not saying that I take Operation Bluebeam seriously. And for people that don't know,
please tell.
Operation Bluebeam is like, I don't know, the mother of all conspiracies, that some New World Order kook in the 90s came up with this idea that there would be a fake alien invasion or the fake second coming of Christ.
I call it the Watchmen.
The Watchmen, right? That
it's essentially Ozymandias's plan, right? Yeah. He teleported giant aliens from a different dimension, and they destroyed and they killed like billions of like millions and millions of people, and we united under one common thread of an alien outside force. Right. In the movie, they changed it to Dr. Manhattan, but it's the same fucking thing. So Project Bluebeam, right, is that pretty much where they were going to fake an alien invasion or something like that, and then be like, look, we gotta unite as one.
We gotta unite, just like Independence Day, man.
Right.
So, yeah, and I mean, in my episode, I talked about. Have you heard of Dr. Stephen Greer? He's like,
yeah, of course, yeah.
So, I mean, he's funded by the Rockefellers. Like, he has Rockefeller connections. His Disclosure Project is Rockefeller funded. And he was pushing this idea, and he's been pushing this idea with the lady who was the spokesperson for Dr. Werner von Braun, and he's the Nazi NASA rocket scientist.
He was the head guy over there. Used to, I think, hang the slowest Jews every day, and is like in front of his.
Is that what he said?
I believe that was Werner von Braun, who like they would hang like the slowest like working Jews every day outside of his office is like a motivation thing, because you want that guy leading our shit.
So he apparently told this lady in the 70s, like, it was a deathbed confession, like, hey, this is what the plan is. So when you ask me what the motivation is behind starting a war, it's going to be nuclear holocaust, right? And then at the last fucking second, the aliens are going to come in and evaporate all the missiles. And then we have to, or something like that, right? That's what's going to happen. That's the motivation. So,
dude, it's fucking crazy. So this is from his mouth on his deathbed confession, Nazi face.
Well, it's hearsay,
right? No, I hear you, right? But I'm saying
but apparently, yeah, that's what she says that he said. And there's an exception. I'm a lawyer by practice, and so there's an exception in the evidence rules in court for a deathbed confession, or like a statement made upon an imminent death or belief of death. So that could come in court. So there has to be some plausibility to it, right?
That's fucking interesting, dude. But not to get off the fucking rails here with alien shit, but one quick last thing with the project, because it's interesting.
Yeah. The technology
right. Well, you see all these drone shows they're doing, like the Super Bowl and stuff like that. Dude, that looks fucking. They don't look like drones. They don't look like drones doing like a choreographed fucking. Now that's just with drones. Who the fuck knows what tech they actually have?
Right.
So yeah, it's not far off. That's what I'm saying. That's why I hate being called like your conspiracy. Like, but it's not crazy. It's not crazy. You're just not thinking, or you're just so close-minded. We're like everything's how it is. It's like it's not though. Right. All right. So go back to the Ukraine Russia thing. I don't know if you saw. Yeah, I'll go talk about it another day, dude. That's a whole other. No, we gotta do that. Different episode. I do a conspiracy thing on this show every now and then. We got to come back to that. I mean, I'll have you on one day and we'll do that. We'll definitely talk about that for sure, but not on the, we can't. I'll do that whole episode. Did you see that fucking missile hit the residential apartment?
I didn't see the video itself. I saw a picture of the apartment building afterwards, and I know it I don't know, it was probably cast as being a Russian missile that hit a residential complex, but there's reason to believe, and I've heard this, but there's reason to believe that it was Ukrainian anti-air missile.
That's what. Okay. If you watch the video, the angle of the missile, it has like an upward trajectory, not so much of a downward trajectory. So I think they just shot their own building. I don't know. That's totally, again, hearsay for what I'm not a fucking weapons expert. I don't fucking know, but I'm just saying that's what it kind of would look like from my naked eye. But again, perfect tool for Ukraine to be like, look what they hit a fucking Russian, a Ukrainian private residential apartment tower. And then I also heard reports of like, they're shooting women, Russian, and children trying to flee off of certain. And I go, maybe. Where's the proof, though?
It sounds like classic,
right? It's like classic propaganda. That's what I'm saying. But like again, it could totally be true, right? It could totally be true.
Yeah, it could be.
But I just feel like it's probably bullshit, because where's the fucking evidence? Where's the proof? Where's the what? Because 1 and 2 new people said it,
right? Yeah, and I've covered on my show in the past. There was a British member of parliament called Ponsonby. I forget his first name, but he came out with Falsehood in Wartime, was a famous book that he wrote after World War I, talking about all the lies that goaded the British into war, British citizens. And a lot of them, I mean, one after another. There was this rumor going around in Belgium that the Germans were cutting the hands off of children and babies as they marched through Belgium. There was a story that went around that was reported in all the papers about a nurse from Dumfries in the UK who had her breasts cut off, and she was raped very severely, and she, I guess, had enough time to write a letter back home, and that's how the story was recovered.
By the way, saying rape severely is funny. It's like I was raped, but it was okay. It wasn't severe rape.
Just, I had time to write this letter, and but the mother of all of these was very credible reports from the ground that the Germans were collecting the corpses of their dead and melting them down to make glycerin, and they were doing this at a factory in Germany. And this was reported in the London Times, so it was complete and utter bullshit. But
right.
So I mean,
it's a major newspaper though putting out a major bullshit bogus story. That's a frightening thing. If that was true, you're like, what? Yeah. Like if you were a Dutch dude and you were like, they're cutting off babies' hands, you'd be like, what the fuck? Of course, it's horrified. You'd do anything to either run, get the fuck out of there, or do anything to fight, right? So of course it gets the war drums going.
Yeah.
Which also leads me to this point, which I find also very hypocritically funny from the same fucking dumb COVID idiots and all these people who are now propagating the Ukraine thing. Where were you for 20 years of bombing Yemen?
Right. Yeah.
Where were you for the Libya thing? Where were you for the Syria that you don't give a fuck about brown babies? You only care about white babies. Like you don't give a fuck. Let's be honest. You don't give a shit because again, fucking Dave Smith's point, right? But like, how many millions of babies have died in Yemen from starving to death or cholera, whatever the fuck we're doing to them? Yeah. Well, not us, but because we're kind of boys with Saudi Arabia. Right. It's like, you guys don't give a fuck. You don't give a fuck. You truly don't care about the death. You don't care about babies dying. You care because you're being told to care because you're fucking sheep, which is a fucking beat expression now, but that's what you fucking are.
Yeah. And if you approach people about this or challenge them on it or talk about Yemen, sometimes people will actually know what you're talking about, but other times they'll be like, yeah, well, the Houthis are being armed by Iran, right? So therefore, just because, and that's not true, by the way.
Of course, it's just.
And but if you get into it, they're saying, well, yeah, I mean, all this horrible stuff is happening, but the implication is we have to do it because the Houthis are being armed by Iran.
So we got to kill just so many babies.
Yeah.
And not just shoot them or bomb them. We have to starve them slowly to death. It's like, what the fuck, dude? How could I just don't know how the justification in these people's fucking heads to get to that point.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's nice, I guess, like people's criticism of libertarians. I mean, you've seen this even from people who used to be libertarians, like stop living in Ancapistan in your head kind of situation. But I think in this we really can, because when you get to foreign policy, this is real world stuff. I mean, this is where theory meets practice, and it's a very delicate balance to play. But at the same time, from its foundation, it's really easy, right? I mean, you can say we're going to condemn bullshit on both sides, right? We're not going to be apologists for Putin, but say, no, he is a rational actor. He is someone who, has stated his motivations in the past. It's not okay that he went forward and started attacking all of Ukraine. But at the same time, we can condemn NATO, and maybe we have more of a place to condemn NATO in the West because we're part of it.
Right. You want to speak on a little bit of why NATO sucks?
Yeah, NATO sucks.
Yeah.
It's an outdated institution. I mean, it was created to counteract the Soviets during the Cold War. And then once the Soviet Union fell, NATO didn't disappear. And then so over and over again, there have been promises from the West and from NATO not to expand NATO eastwards, not 1 inch further. This was promised over and over again. And now NATO is messing around in Ukraine. And I think the biggest concern that Putin has seems to be the deployment of these missiles that Scott Horton talks about all the time. Mm-hmm. That there would be, I think they're Patriot missiles, but they're dual use missile systems. So they're sold,
attack, offense and defense.
Yeah, they're sold as being some kind of I don't know, some kind of a Iron Dome or something that would protect the West from Russian missiles. But they can also go the other way. They can also shoot out offensive nuclear-tipped warheads. And once you put them in Ukraine, you can hit Moscow within 5 or 10 minutes. And that would give us first strike capability, which really would upset the balance.
Yeah, which is, again, another thing when you tell people this, it's like, I'm not pro Putin. I'm just telling you guys, like, imagine if Russia in like the fucking 70s just took out like Toronto
Right.
and just started moving missiles into Toronto. Like literally 100, not 100, a couple, 100 miles, 1,000 miles, not 1,000, 100 miles from New York City.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's like, how would you guys feel? You do feel okay that you have a foreign country who took out a part of another foreign country that doesn't like us on our literal border? I mean, of course, you would be freaked out. It's the same thing with the whole Iran, the whole Middle East nonsense of like they hate us for our freedom, or like like they hate us because we wear bikinis and spin like no, man, they hate us because we bomb their fucking children since the 50s.
Right. Yeah.
That's why. Wouldn't you guys be pissed if we had American babies in hospitals being blown up for 80 years? Like, would you not be, not 80, but 60 years? What the fuck? Like, would you not be bummed out or mad or like want to retaliate or fight back? Of course you would.
Yeah. And we just have not been in that position for such a long time. I mean, the US has been, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the last time, you could go back to the Civil War when there was fighting, but at that time it wasn't a foreign aggressor who was primarily doing the fighting on American soil. You might have to go back to the 1812 is what I'm thinking. And so we just have no idea. I mean, it's been so far removed from our generations that just doesn't register.
Well, that's why it's funny. It's like all these fucking like TikTok. It's like, I stand with Ukraine. It's like, you would fold in 3 seconds if this happened here in LA or like wherever the fuck. Like, you don't know. Like, you don't know shit. Also, how many bad takes have you seen by just blue check marks? It's like this is like COVID proportion in like record time of bad takes. Like 2 years of COVID shitty takes in like 3 days.
There was one that MacFarlane, so right as the invasion was happening, MacFarlane was on MSNBC, I think, talking about it, saying that, oh, well, everyone is saying, these anti-war people, they'll say that that the reason why Putin is upset and he's justified in being upset is because NATO has crept eastward over all these years. And he says, I got you, motherfuckers. Like Putin said in 2001 in this, like, I don't know, in this speech that he did to 5 people, that he didn't care if NATO moved eastward. Right. And then so we're just supposed to take that. So MacFarlane, he sucks. But, there's a lot, man. And there was I think it was Colonel Danny Davis who went on Fox or something like that, and then he said a whole bunch of really, really awesome anti-war de-escalation stuff. And he has a storied history being in the U.S. military. And I think Trey Gowdy was on, and they brought on some bimbo talking head who was like, actually, I'd like to correct a whole bunch of misrepresentations that Danny Davis came on and said. A real American hero, not that makes him right, just by factor of being an American hero and being in the military, but it sucks. It just the amount of propaganda and the speed of it. I think Glenn Greenwald had an article saying that it was just disturbing. Haven't seen it since 2001, and it's just very concerning for the escalation in the way that we're going right now.
Yeah, no, I put out a tweet today, and I was like after everything we know about 9/11 and Iraq and Afghanistan and COVID, etc., like, if your take is truly just still like Russian bad, like, you're fucking retarded. Like, you have to understand this is a fucking game, and like, this isn't black and white. I mean, everything, like, especially now where we are so lied to, you have to look at everything and be like, how am I being lied to in this fucking news article?
Right.
How am I being lied to in this fucking news clip? How am I being lied to in this fucking interview? How, like, whatever. It's like, you can't just sit down and just fucking take anymore. I mean, like, I don't know if you noticed this, but like, we're probably on the same age. I'm 35.
I'm 28.
Jesus Christ. I look fucking awful then.
I got some gray hair up there.
But like when I was a kid, I said I remember like my dad watching like Peter Jennings.
Yeah.
And when you're a kid, at the time, you just thought, oh, there's no agenda. They're just giving you the news.
Right.
Because you're a kid.
Right.
And looking back on it, you're like, oh shit, it was so agendized. Like, it was so fucking not as much as today, obviously not as much as today. Like that was still with like before the 24-hour news cycles and all that shit like that, right? But like why do you think this sudden leap in that, like from severe propaganda to just like subliminal propaganda? Would you think it was like the Trump stuff? Like, do you think is that what kicked it off, or was it the Obama years before the Trump stuff?
Well,
or the 9/11 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think that as the internet has gotten more prevalent, and as we've had kind of like a Gutenberg press moment with YouTube and with podcasting, and I think that their narrative has gotten to be more, it needs to be more sophisticated because now you have real alternatives. And I think that one thing that Connor Freeman and I have been talking about a lot, and I think Kyle's talked about this with us too on podcasts, is just how there's a disturbing rise in a new class of media right now, and we've set our sights on the independent media, where it seems like the big thing now is trade-offs, right? So you'll have people be really, really good on one issue, and this is prevalent in the anti-COVID regime space. They have to, the anti-COVID narrative, which they're good on for the most part, is the cheese and the trap. But going along with that, you have to take all of your anti-China baggage, right? And so it's things like that, like hawks in sheep's clothing. And I think that now people have decidedly stated with their preferences that they really like Joe Rogan because they feel like, you know, Joe's not somebody who would lie to me. I've listened to him talk for hundreds of hours. I know Joe Rogan personally. I have a personal, it's kind of like Jesus.
Right.
I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. But
they're both ripped.
Yeah, I pictured Jesus just being Joe Rogan. That's how
he talks about DMT a lot. He's super into like fucking alpha brain.
Yeah.
He eats elk. Fucking does CrossFit. Fucking a lot of kettlebell work.
But it's more sophisticated now. I mean, like when people like Tim Pool, I guess he's my favorite person to pick on because he's so awful, and libertarians really like him. But when Tim Pool,
I want to clarify my Tim Pool. I like Tim Pool, but I have my problems with Tim Pool. I do totally get, like, I don't suck his dick like half the other people in this party do. Like, I'm like, okay, that was cool. But then I see some tweets. I'm like, dude, you fucking, what was that? Like, that's mush brain.
But it really attracts people. To give people who like Tim Pool some credit is that it attracts people who like to believe they're getting something other than the mainstream media. People who like things that at least appear to have substance behind them. But what you're really getting is you're getting that mainstream media narrative in a different wrapper. It's processed and packaged in a way that sounds different and looks different.
Trojan horse almost.
And it's more complicated because you get this feeling of false sense of security because of that format and because it's long form. But really the depth of coverage there is, I mean, it's just an inch deep in what really is an ocean in foreign policy. And when he says, you know, oh, I'm just reading the news, man, like, I'm not pushing propaganda. This could be propaganda, but I'm going to read it to you anyways and not question it. So, I mean, and when you look at his stances on things, like, you could do a side-by-side comparison of his tweets to John Bolton's tweets, and it'd be the same thing. It's just that at the end, Tim Pool says, well, we don't want a war. I don't want a war, and we shouldn't fight one. But do we just sit by while Putin runs through the entire of Eastern Europe and threatens all of us? You know, that kind of thing.
Well, which is right-wing propaganda, I feel like. Or I guess not even right-wing propaganda. I guess it's just war propaganda right now. It's not even like that was old. Like, that was like the war party of the right's old days. It's not even how it is anymore. Now it's like, how many neo-libs are there? That's an old talking point too. It's so weird how shit changes.
Yeah.
Like, just so quick. Like again, in the 90s, I was a kid. I was born in 86. So like I actually grew up in the 90s. I wasn't like I was born in 97. I'm a 90s kid. It's like no. I was like 5 years old in 1991. Like I remember the 90s. And the left was the party of like, hey man, you should be able to say what you want, man. Like fuck government, man. And the right was like, no, like restricting speech, and like they were like, don't say that shit. God. Right. And now it's just the complete fucking up. I mean, but the complete instead of God, their God is government. Like that's the only difference. Like they still, which is also funny, they mock like religious God. And I'm not religious myself. I believe in I don't know what the fuck. I don't know. Something had to create something. I don't know. But like, I don't mock it. I don't mock religion. They mock it like, I can't believe these idiots believe in a tablet from like 1,000 years ago. And then they're like, Fauci. It's like you're doing the same thing, but just modern version of that. It's he's a tablet guy now to you. And you're just reading the fucking rules of COVID as the commandments.
It's the natural progression of progressivism itself. I mean, back when progressivism started in the teens and the 20s, there was a whole bunch of people coming forward talking about how, they were all religious fanatics at that point. They were super Puritan in their ways, but they said, hey, well, the church is all well and good and everything, but the real way to affect society is through the state. So what we're going to do is create all these agencies with these so-called experts getting up there saying that, hey, my germplasm actually makes me a better human than you. So I should be able to forcibly sterilize you. It's science.
Right.
So.
Well, that was people's justifications though over COVID, right? Like you can't eat in this restaurant with me because you're not vaccinated. It's like,
oh, right. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You are, and I still got it from you. It's like, what the fuck are you talking? It's always people are always going to find something to feel elevated over other people.
Yeah.
Feel better then, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Right now it was COVID. What's the next thing? The war thing? Like, I don't know. What's the next virtue signal pat on the back? Like, I believe we should invade Russia.
Right.
It's like, cool. Are you going to do it? Oh, no. Shut the fuck up. I was talking to my father-in-law, and he's a conservative guy, and he was like, "What's the libertarian stance on the Russia-Ukraine thing?" I was like, "No war." I was like, "No war, and not a single American dollar or life to be spent at the word, can't find the word I'm looking for, expense of that crisis." And I feel terrible for what's happened. I feel bad for anybody who dies, but that's irrelevant to. And he's like, no, I feel that way too. I was like, all right, good. I was like, that's good, because I was worried about like how many regular people would feel about being propagated into believing we should get involved or not. But it seems to be, I feel like still most rational people are like, no, we shouldn't embark on a war with Russia.
I really hope so. And I don't see it. They probably don't see it as starting a war with Russia, which again is a huge problem. But the other thing too to keep in mind is like, I'm not gonna minimize the tragedy taking place in Ukraine right now. I mean, it's horrible.
Right.
The Russians should not be in there. Again, all those other caveats we already talked about. But at the same time, at this point in the conflict, things like this with more brutal fighting have been happening in the Middle East for a long time. And so the American public will be obsessed with Ukraine for a few weeks, maybe a few months, if we don't all get vaporized before then. After that, they're going to forget about this, just like the Kurds.
Right. Which is also annoying again about all the fucking, the Kurds. That was so ridiculous.
You remember that?
Nothing happened. Literally nothing happened. And remember those motherfuckers on CNN were showing the gun range footage from Kansas?
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, and again, if you just know basic, like if you even seen real warfare footage, you're like, there's not that many tracer rounds in real war. It's like one every like 30. It's not like every fucking. It's like, it looks like a movie, guys. Like, you really think this is real? Like, no, it looks like a show. Like, of course it looks like it.
None of them said anything about when Saddam used all the helicopters that we gave him to slaughter the Kurds.
Right. Again, they don't give a shit. It's virtue signaling.
Yeah.
What do you think about the possibility of the Chinese Taiwan thing?
Yeah, that's been interesting because I have commented on that quite a bit more, and it's like ever since I kind of like ever since I kind of downplayed the possibility that Russia could invade Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm rethinking things, and like I never ruled any. I don't think I ever ruled it out. I said, you know, it really doesn't look like Russia's going to invade Ukraine. There might be a war over the Donbass, but I think it would be provoked by Ukraine. That being said, I have said for a while that, you know, there isn't a whole lot of evidence that China's imminently preparing to invade Ukraine. I think it's much more likely that China is looking to reunify with Ukraine or with Taiwan. China is looking to reunify with Taiwan. They would rather do it peacefully over a period of time. I think that Taiwan will become part of China again. I mean, officially, Taiwan is part of China.
Right, it is, but yeah.
So you get what I mean, but
It's kind of funny how China was like the second guy to start looting. Like Russia was the first guy to be like, "Fuck it," and like throw the rock through the window, and China was
right,
like,
looking around,
"We're
seeing
doing this? Fuck it, let's go!" Like, we're doing this too. Like we also had the plan the whole time to do this. Also, like they were just trying to like jump on the back. It's also funny how like, oh, here's a question: do you think if Trump was still president, this would be going on?
see that whole question pisses me off because it's like the implication with it is that Biden is weak, and if only Biden were stronger, then this wouldn't be happening, right?
No,
Um,
I don't even think I'm not even implying that. I'm just being from a relationship standpoint, right? Because like Trump would openly be like, Putin's, you know, he's cool. Like not cool, but like he's like, you know, he would like praise him. He wouldn't shit on him.
right.
That's what I mean. And Putin also, it seems with Trump, he's like, he's whatever. Like he wasn't like fuck this guy, like Biden. That's I don't mean the fucking strong weak argument. I
No,
mean
no, no,
like
no.
a relationship argument. Like, do you think it would have?
Yeah, I don't mean to. I'm just digging at the question because I've heard other people ask that same question with the, you know, with the implication that like, oh well, if only Biden were stronger, this wouldn't be happening. I mean, I don't know, but I think it would still be happening. I do. I think some of the people that Trump surrounded himself with, and I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Trump really was carried by his administration in people that were in place around him that didn't have the same agenda as him. So I mean, it's possible that they could have sat down and really and banged out some kind of an agreement.
Right.
I think there would have been immense pressure from our side for Putin, or excuse me, for Trump to not reach a deal with Putin. I mean, you can just imagine
Yeah.
what
Oh
the
yeah, no,
narrative would have
they
been.
would have called him like a puppet and like
Right.
supporting the war and for sure. Like, but again, they did the same thing when he had like fucking talked to Kim Jong Un. I'm like, what do you like? Shouldn't we be
Yes.
doing that?
Yeah.
Shouldn't we be doing that? Isn't the whole point is to be like, hey, don't start a nuclear war. Like that's the point, right? Like I don't I just that's why I when I do see like that Trump derangement syndrome and all that bullshit, that's when you do go, yeah, it's real. Like it is real. Like I remember he signed a law to a felony, I think, where like if you animal abuse is like a felony now. And there were people like, you believe Trump making that? It's like, really? You're gonna like that's the thing you're gonna
That's the thing
like go
keeping you
on?
from
Like
breeding animals.
I
Is
don't know. I think
treason.
that's pretty good. That's a pretty good law. I love my dog. I would like to see that maybe a felony. Sure. I don't know. Like it's just it's like that shit. It does get annoying, and it is there. So you do have to parse through that also to get to like a potential real answer to my question. Like, well, how many assholes in our own country are just like hate him as is? So you got to get through that to get to like a potential real solution. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you know, I don't. I think if Trump might have actually talked too much shit where he couldn't back it up.
Yeah.
Like you know what I'm saying? Like he would have been like, "Oh, I think I can't do Trump impression, but I think it like, oh, I Putin that'd be a bad idea for Putin to do that, you know, because we have a lot, we're very strong, military's very strong, or something like that." And then Putin's like, "Oh yeah, watch me do it now, motherfucker." And then Trump would
Right.
have been like, fuck, I can't do shit," and make him eat his words almost.
Well, I think it's yeah. I mean,
Oh, we
it's
got a question here from David, the
oh,
young bull, David Brady. I think the only problem with Biden's original response is that he didn't put the NATO block in writing for Putin, or is that an incorrect assessment?
he didn't put a NATO block, so he didn't he didn't make a promise that Ukraine would never be part of NATO. I
I
mean,
guess
everyone
so.
knows. I think everyone in the West knows that Ukraine will never be part of NATO. I think they know that.
Well, they just applied for EU unionship, right?
Right.
Which that's not good.
Oh, I don't think it is. But at the same time, I think they know that if do you remember this summer when Zelensky put out on Twitter something about joining NATO and that they've been approved to join NATO or something like that?
Yeah,
I remember.
kind of like vaguely, yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest issues is all of the weapons that we've been sending into Ukraine. And this is what concerns me for Taiwan too, is that you have military think tanks. I think the Project 2049 Institute that's helping to sell all these weapons and funnel them into Taiwan, funnel all of the US military drills both in Eastern Europe and in the South China Sea and around those areas. I think that really contributes to a lot of this brinksmanship and a lot of this animosity between both sides. And I mean, those things have been ramping up no matter who's in the White House.
Right.
And that's a huge part of the crisis that we're in right now.
If China goes into Taiwan, I guess again, nothing happens.
Well, we'd hope not, because I think everyone knows. So this leads me into a broader point that I think I want to make is what we're seeing now, if we survive it, could be the end of the current world order. And I don't mean that in a conspiratorial sense. I mean that in a quite literal sense. Right now, there's a unipolar world where the United States is the global hegemon. What we're seeing is an impotent NATO in an impotent Western civilization that is knows it's out of bullets, and it's kind of desperate for power. I think that our civilization has been eroding from beneath us, and they're desperate, and Putin and Xi know this. And I think that they are at a point where they're so pissed off by being bullied around that they're going to call our bluffs. And I don't think that they have aspirations of being the new world hegemons, but I think that they no longer would like the US at the top. And so I foresee a situation now where it's just a turning of the tide and a tipping of the scales on the world stage, where the United States is no longer going to be the only power. It's going to be a multipolar world. And maybe that's what's necessary for the World Economic Forum to get their agenda through. I don't know. Maybe that's what they envision. I'm just speculating, but I think that's what we're seeing here. And I think it's the most dangerous time to be on this planet and with world relations, because as the empire dies, they get more frantic and more unpredictable. So,
well, what's the average empire? It's like 200 years or something like that. Yeah, well, we're past it. Yeah. So we're gonna roam ourselves for sure.
Yeah.
Didn't they say like when Rome got like fascinated with like genitals and stuff was when they started like fall?
Yeah,
I've heard that before, right? Like
who is that? There's this famous anti-feminist feminist who did a thing with Jordan Peterson. God, I forget her name, but Jordan Peterson and her, they did this talk together, and she went through and was talking about how you see it at the fall of every civilization, where societies start to get obsessed with androgyny and mixing genders and things like that. And I remember her talking about that in like 2011 or 2012. So
yeah, it's wild, right? If that's true, like, again, we hit that place that we're so safe and everything's so easy. It's like, what can we make problems about? Oh, what bathroom can I use?
Right.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
It's like go work in a field, you fuck. Like, it's like, yeah, that's very annoying. We got a question from David Brady. Can Patrick touch on the nuclear weapon proliferation movement with Reagan?
Yeah. My understanding is that there was a nuclear deal in place, and again, I haven't studied this as extensively as maybe Scott, of course not, but
of course.
Kyle. But my understanding is that there was a nuclear weapons agreement in place, and that we got out of it either during the Obama administration or the Trump administration. If it's the Trump administration, it would push back on this narrative that if only Trump were in office, then it's not the JCPOA, is it? No, that's the Iran nuclear deal. Well, who's that guy that Scott has on who was the Russian He
Oh,
he was the head of the Soviet
yeah.
for the CIA, Ray McGovern.
Yeah,
Ray was talking about how back then we actually had diplomacy that made sense, right? Trust but verify. Because when you're on the brink with another nuclear power, there's not a lot of mutual trust and reassurance, and promises don't really mean much. But at some point, someone has to break and trust what the other side is going to say. You trust first, then verify later that the other side is going along with the agreement. So, and as I understand, we chose some bullshit reason to get out of this nuclear agreement, and now it's just maybe that was the pretext for putting all these weapon systems in Eastern Europe. I'm not sure, but I need to read more about that.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know.
Let's touch on Taiwan again, because
Yeah, sure.
I don't think that an invasion is imminent, and Xi was actually urging Putin to settle the Ukraine situation in talks with Zelensky. Which
really?
Talks happened today.
I did see that.
But yeah, so Xi was urging Putin to come to a peace deal. Now, I don't know if that signifies what his real intent is, what China's real intent is. I do know that China refused to condemn the operation in Ukraine, I believe. But I think that if Xi is urging Putin to end the conflict, that probably means he's not planning on launching an invasion on Ukraine or Taiwan.
China's like, chill. So
chill.
We could do it. Right, yeah. And we won't have two countries doing crazy shit at once. Everybody could chill out.
And so everyone was saying that, oh, it'd be perfect for that. But I mean, it's another non-starter. Like, of course, we can't get into a shooting war with China. China has this, I think, the third most nuclear weapons in the world. They would wreck our Navy. I mean, you're talking about trying to conduct a war across the Pacific Ocean. They have long-range ship-busting missiles that would take out our aircraft carriers before our planes even got in range. And but on the other side, Taiwan is an island nation. The entire side that faces China is rocky. There aren't a lot of beachheads there that you could do a real invasion landing on, a la D-Day.
Right.
It's been training for decades to repel an invasion, and they've been setting up missile emplacements all over the place. Taiwan
do they have like a standing army?
They do. However, it's not huge.
I gotta look it up.
Yeah.
I'll continue while I look this up. Sorry, good.
Well, so they have all those things, and if China needed to, I don't know, they couldn't really sail around Taiwan to get to the other side. That works better for an invasion because they just get shot up with missiles. But their Goldstein, he's a guy from Defense Priorities, a contractor who's former Navy War College. He says, Lyle, I think his name is Lyle Goldstein. He was on the Scott Horton show talking about how he thinks an invasion of Ukraine actually would be over in a few days, where China could just send in their special forces units like Putin is, that they could target primary infrastructure and hit certain targets. Because again, Putin doesn't want to wreck Ukraine,
right. He doesn't want to fuck it up.
And the same thing with Taiwan. I mean,
I'm looking up their shit right now.
Yeah,
they're not to be fucked with. So their total military personnel is 1.6 million.
Yeah,
and the reserve. I mean, most of it's at 1.5 reserve, but
reserves,
but still. And then I'm looking up their air power. They got like 741 total aircraft strength.
Yeah,
they have fucking attack helicopters, fighters and inceptors, transporters, fucking, and then they have. I'm looking at. They have over 1,000 tanks. They have rockets, towed artillery, naval forces. They don't have any aircraft carriers. But they have some frigates, They have 4 submarines, dude. They have some shit. So they're not like. No one. I thought they were just. I see. This is how much I don't know about Taiwan. I thought they just had like a small, like super small, like almost like Monaco-sized military. You know what I'm saying? Where they would just get wiped off the face of the earth in 2 seconds. I didn't realize they had like 1 million fucking people to fight back if they had to.
They have been preparing. Excuse me, for an invasion for quite some time. I mean,
my buddy Blaze is in the chat. He's drunk. He said China would not landslide our Navy. He's my opener, Blaze. He's a good friend.
Yeah. No, I think they would, and I would cite Lyle Goldstein. He would say, of course, that China China could invade Taiwan and they might be able to do it quickly, but it's a non-starter that we would. But again, you're talking about our Navy that's spread all over the globe. I mean, we have focused on the South China Sea in the past. I mean, we've been running our warships through the Taiwan Strait at an ever increasing pace for the last few years. But the logistics of it, I mean, the idea that we could win a prolonged naval engagement with China, I think is not very plausible.
I mean, I don't know, right? I mean, it wouldn't be easy, right? Like if we did win, it would be like a fucking to the wire or to the nail type of fucking win. I know they have obviously like the largest military in the world, like, but like they're not. It's like the training. It always comes down to training and equipment too. And I know they have a great Navy, but I believe I could be anybody out there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but most of our shit is better than their shit. Like when it comes to the military, except they especially like they push all their shit into the Navy, but like our ground stuff is like better. We're better trained. We're better, all that shit. So if we got ever against like a ground war, like we would probably win at a heavy cost, but we would win it.
Yeah,
like,
well,
you know.
I think even while Blaze would probably agree with me that we never want to fucking find out.
No, he would agree with you there. Yeah.
I could die an old man without knowing.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely don't want that.
And-
yeah, he just said this. He's fucking.
But he's-
I think they will. He wrong though.
That's cool though.
No, but yeah, he's a dumb comic like me. Don't listen to him.
No, yeah, but no, it's good to get some pushback on this because I was saying that I don't think Putin's going to invade Ukraine. So
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. And it's fair to say none of us are experts.
Right.
Literally, none of us are experts. This is just we're all just a little educated on this. I would say more than the average person. So this is just our takes, and again, all opinions. A lot of this is opinions. A lot of this is just historical stuff, but. Yeah, if anybody's listening to this, like that's what's going to happen. Don't. Were you guys serious? Don't come to us. We're just fucking around.
One thing to keep in mind is I think that the U.S. military is very bloated. I think that we spend a lot of money, but does that really get us returned value?
Yeah, here you go. How about no war?
Yeah, so,
yeah.
So he gets it. But yeah, there's a lot of bloat. I mean,
war decided in Call of Duty.
we got our F-35s that we've sunk billions of dollars into that they don't even fucking work. One hit the runway in China.
I saw that. I crashed into the ocean, right?
Yeah. and then there was a big battle, like capture the flag to see who could get to the wreckage first. So actually Corbett had a great piece about the Chinese military equipment. I think it's called China's suspiciously suspiciously American looking military or something, talking about how China actually has a bunch, like all of their weapon systems are American. And there's stories about like Israel selling systems to China.
For sure.
But
yeah, no, 100%. I remember back in, was it 99 when they shot down the U-2 spy plane?
Yeah.
And then we're like, hey, give it back. They're like, yeah, okay. And he just like took it apart like from fucking front to back. Like here's a fucking sheet metal back, you fucking cunts. And we're like,
it's all full of fucking embarrassing things for us because I mean it wasn't only that. There was a nuclear submarine, I think, over the fall that crashed in the South China Sea. And they were afraid it was leaking radioactive material. You had like
that was a Russian one, right?
It was a US submarine.
Oh, I thought that was a Russian sub that crashed also. Or maybe there was also a Russian sub that crashed.
Might have been a different time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this was just...
That's not great. They have a lot of nuclear subs just crashing into the ocean.
Right.
How about that?
That just sounds great.
Also, if you're in a submarine and it goes down, you're just dead, right?
Yeah, that would suck.
Fuck, dude. Yo, fuck that job.
Hey, at least you'd die. You'd probably die instantly. How about this? When the Challenger exploded, they were talking about how the astronauts probably lived long enough to fall back to the Earth. Could you imagine like being on a huge fucking explosion that sends you up in the air and then you blow up in midair and then you're alive long enough and maybe conscious to fall all the way back down?
Start punching yourself to try and knock yourself out the way down.
Please die.
Oh my God, dude, that would be horrible.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Anything else you want to touch on?
Well, now your buddy fucking
Yes.
Blaze is gonna make me like do a frantic search the rest of the night.
Oh, he was popping off. Actually, let me go back up to what he said.
Try and fortify my position.
So we would win for sure. Their naval capabilities are nowhere near ours, along with the fact that it's not like carriers run around alone. They have an entire battle group and around the carrier, and we have a new class of carrier that no one else can contend with. LOL. LOL.
No, but I said that they have hypersonic cruise, like they have hypersonic ship busting missiles.
Also, who the fuck knows what we have to? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know what the fuck we have. Like, you know, I don't know if DARPA wants to just necessarily be like, we also have that.
Like, well, this is where the UFOs come back into play. So we're getting full circle here. Yeah. But no, I'm Blaze. Like, what about the hypersonic missile things, right? I mean, Lyle Goldstein, I'm not just talking out of my ass. This is what he says, is that these missiles they would hit the U.S. carriers before our planes would even get in range. But
again, I'm sure that's a thing. But again, who the fuck knows what we have and don't have defensively even, or offensively? It's like, no one knew we had a nuke till that shit hit fucking Nagasaki, dude.
That's true. Yeah.
And they were like, what's that fucking cloud? Like, no one knew, right? So who the fuck knows?
Today I was seriously looking at the United States guidance for what to do in the event of a nuclear
I know you're going to say, have a god. And they recommended the COVID mask thing?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, okay. I think that's what you're talking about.
I had a chuckle about that, but I was actually legit reading it because I was like, well,
what do they say to do?
Just, you know, after the explosion happens, get inside as soon as possible because the fallout comes within 10 minutes. So get into like a structure that has concrete walls and stuff like that. And then don't touch your orifices, don't touch anything, but then take a shower or something as soon as possible to get the radioactivity off of you. And then you can eat and drink water and food that has been inside during the explosion. But where I am in Wisconsin, actually, I don't know. They're going to destroy fucking Madison and Milwaukee, which is fine with me. Destroy the Twin Cities, maybe Duluth. But I'm in a little isolated pocket. So my plan is to drive to the UP.
I'm fucked because I'm right outside of Philly.
Oh, yeah.
30 minutes outside of Philly.
My sister lives in Philly.
Oh, she's fucked too?
Yeah. She's going to be gone.
Tell her to come to a show when fucking goddamn.
Well, she's fucked anyways because she took the vaccine. Dark humor there.
That's it. Now she's gonna get AIDS, whatever. Blaze said, "I haven't researched as far into a China conflict. I'm sure the government's looking at how to combat that. Like every country gains taken out. Yeah, that's what I just said, pretty much. But
yeah, he's totally right. I mean,
who the fuck knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
Fuck knows. Hopefully, I guess, no war. Hopefully, there is a resolve in Ukraine, and hopefully these treaties just fucking end peacefully, and you know, China doesn't invade Taiwan, and we don't have to see that full scale fucking million-man war, I guess, from those numbers. So,
yeah, let's have it happen just to see who's right, me or Blaze.
Yeah, right, guys. Let's sacrifice the life of the eastern half of the world to see if Pat or Blaze are right. Patrick, let's tell everybody to find you and Twitter, social media, all that great stuff. Anything else you got going on you want to plug?
Yeah. I run a podcast called Liberty Weekly. I'm a practicing attorney. I have my own law practice. I practice criminal defense and family law, but I moonlight as a libertarian podcaster. And my show Liberty Weekly is up at the Libertarian Institute, where Scott Horton is the director there. But we have a lot of great podcasts, a lot of great writers. And I really do. I honestly believe we have an incredible team assembled there at the Libertarian Institute. And so in the next 5 to 10 years, I think it's going to really become an outlet to be reckoned with in this space.
Yeah, all you guys fucking rock solid. And antiwar.com for everybody out there who doesn't know what that is, please go to that website. Like you said earlier, every fucking day I check it. I hit it like once a day. Like, what's going on at antiwar.com?
Yeah,
I'll just fucking scroll through when I'm dicking around. It's great. All you guys agree. Obviously, the man Scott Horton, who I'm his punch up stand up comic writer. I don't know if you knew that, but I wrote. I helped him write for the Tom Woods roast.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
I helped.
No, that was a good bit. Like, there were some belly laughs in there.
Yeah. Well, he the opening bit where he said, "Do you guys see that video of the super handsome bearded guy beat up that old man?" He's like, I'm sorry, that was just my debate. That was my line. That was my
awesome.
joke.
Yeah.
I was like, Scott, I'm telling you, this is gonna crush.
It did, dude. I mean, everything. Yeah, it was real solid.
No, Scott's the fucking man, dude.
Yeah.
Pat, thank you so much for coming on. And again, you got to come back on. We do the conspiracy episodes, our Project Bluebeam and aliens and shit like that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, no, for sure. But again, open invite to any time you want to come back on and shoot the shit. More than welcome to. This is awesome. Thank you. And for you out there, please go buy a shirt. Go buy a shirt. Go buy a shirt. Go buy a porcupine shirt.
There you go.
Go buy a porcupine shirt. Get your very own porcupine shirt. Droptent.com/store. Again, artwork from Top Lobster for one of the shirts. Disobey a local nutter shirt. Then you just have the porcupine, just a logo for the podcast. Go get it. Super comfortable shirts. And again, come to shows. Droptent.com/events for tickets and all that shit. And I'll be we're doing an episode tomorrow night with Caleb Brown. We're going to talk religion and libertarianism and how those go and don't go together. So it's gonna be interesting. So tune in tomorrow, and thank you for tuning in. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Find Adam on social media, Twitter and IG @Adam Nutter, or Facebook and TikTok @Adam Nutter Comedy. And for podcasts and merch, check out www.droptent.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
This has been